Is there such a thing as New Age sickness? I was thinking about calling this video Why Magic Makes Me Puke, but that wasn't too SEO friendly, so let's just call it New Age sickness. Is there such a thing? And what I mean by New Age sickness is that most of the people in my niche, or niche, magic, are puke-worthy know-it-all flakes that claim to have some great insight into the vibrations of the universe. Of course, not all of them, but those who do claim this, I just feel like those vibrations have vibrated a screw loose. I want you to note here the two different types of magic that I'm talking about. And I'm talking about magic with a K in this video. Witchcraft kind of magic is magic with a K, real magic. Because I believe that real magic does exist, sort of. I think there's a lot to psychology and science that can be understood, but where most people might put these effects down to magic, there's something else going on. And to me, that's what magic with a K is. It's an effect that most people don't understand. I know I've mentioned Arthur C. Clarke on this channel before, where he said that any sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic. He's right, of course, but it does go further than that. Magic with a C and magic with a K are, to me, kind of the same thing, with different aims and objectives. Both hide certain actions. Illusion hides certain moves from the spectator by sleight of hand or gaff props, and they have a property that the audience doesn't really know about. That property, like a hole or secret compartment, is what allows the effect to work. Magic with a C, on the other hand, kind of does the same thing. It uses symbols to hide things and encode things from its own audience. The thing is that the audience with witchcraft kind of magic is the person casting the spell. I try to approach magic with a K as a scientist, and I think that there's a lot to learn from that approach. But all of this New Age nonsense makes me want to vomit hot chamomile tea all over their incense burners and put out their flames. The reason is that many of these pendant-toting quacks firmly believe that they know more about magic with a K than I do. And that in itself doesn't really bother me. I'm perfectly happy to learn from those who genuinely do know more than me. But when they try to explain their philosophy to me by citing an almost religious point of view, it seriously winds me up. It bugs me to high heaven. Not that I believe in heaven, but that's a different story. A conversation might go something like this.
You should burn sage to clear out the area from evil spirits.
Oh yeah? I've got some sage incense.
No, you must use a sage smudge stick. It's much more effective.
Really? Where are the double-blind studies to prove that? Sage burning is a well-established way of cleansing a house from evil spirits, but it's far more complicated than that. So complicated, in fact, that I'm sure 99.99% of New Age thinkers simply don't understand why they're doing it. My point of view on magic and the occult goes like this. Burning sage is said to help with getting rid of evil spirits, that's true, but in reality, evil spirits do not exist. Having said that, the act of burning sage is a symbol used by the unconscious mind. It has power, magical power, because we believe it does. The act of burning sage in itself is a symbol that talks to our unconscious mind. That message allows us to change our own behaviours and beliefs, and is an effective way of making change. So let's go back a bit and properly explain what I'm talking about. Let's imagine that your mind is an avocado. I know it's a weird image, just go with me. You can slice that avocado in half, and what do you see? A flipping massive seed right in the middle of it. Let's imagine that the half without the seed is your conscious mind, and the half with the seed is your unconscious mind. So the conscious mind is the one that does all the conscious thinking. That's the one that you're aware of. The other half of the avocado is the unconscious mind. Now clearly, the avocado, like all avocados, like all brains, is supposed to be whole and not cut in half. But while it's still cut, let's have a closer look. The half with the stone is your unconscious mind, and you'll notice that it's got a stone or a seed in there too. And that when compared, weight for weight, the side with the seed is bigger. This mirrors reality too. Your unconscious mind does everything that you cannot consciously think about. It controls the speed with which your heart beats, the speed at which you breathe, you blink, you fire off neurons to make sure your legs don't buckle when you're standing in a line at the supermarket waiting for a sweaty teenager to wipe the handle of your shopping cart. Let's say the seed itself is your personality. It's firmly nested inside your unconscious mind, but your conscious mind does also connect to every part of it. Of course, in reality, an avocado is a pretty symmetrical thing, and our unconscious and conscious minds aren't really like that. It's more like an iceberg in terms of size, with only a tiny amount of visible consciousness at any one time. But let's assume that I'm right just for a second. The unconscious mind cannot be spoken directly to, and it cannot be reasoned with. As soon as you try to reason with your unconscious, it becomes conscious, which defeats the purpose. So the only way that you can talk to your unconscious mind is using symbols. But why would you want to speak to your unconscious mind at all? Well, because if your unconscious mind controls everything that you do, that you're not aware of, it's got a power over things that you're not aware of, and it controls things that you don't even realise it controls. So imagine if you could be conscious of 100% of your existence and able to control 100% of yourself. Sounds pretty good, right? Of course, you think you're in control, and you are to a certain point, but not 100%. Nobody is. I'm not. Magic uses symbols to communicate your will to your unconscious mind, and this is where it starts to deviate from science and common sense a little bit, because at this point it stems into witchy quackery, I guess. So stay with me here. The unconscious mind cannot use language or reason, because otherwise it becomes consciousness. And if that is true, then what can we do? Well, imagine, if you get bitten by a dog, you wouldn't go near that dog again, would you? Or if you did, you'd be much more careful, right? That's not just your conscious mind, that's your unconscious too, because the dog has become a symbol. People have phobias because this symbol system sometimes gets stuck or a mistake gets made. Perhaps someone got scared when they tripped over a garden hose and now they're simply terrified of snakes. They may not know why or how they made that association, but they did. They may not even know that they made the association at all until something happens. They may continue to not know that they've got that association because it's a symbol and it's hiding these things. Now, going back to burning sage for a second, it actually doesn't matter what kind of sage it is, or even if you burn sage at all. It's not going to get rid of evil spirits, because evil spirits aren't real, they don't exist. The only reason that it affects anything, or the only reason that it's got to be a certain thing, is because you believe it does. It's kind of a placebo effect. Am I going to burn sage when I move house? Maybe, but not to get rid of evil spirits as such. Remember, the conscious and unconscious minds work together, but they don't always agree. I know that evil spirits don't exist, at least I know that consciously, but I am also convinced that my unconscious mind, like most people's unconscious mind, does believe in monsters and the primal things that keep us fearful. And that's as it should be. Imagine not being at least cautious in the dark. You don't need to be afraid of the dark necessarily, but if you can't see, being cautious is sensible. You wouldn't want to run off into the pitch black and then off the edge of a cliff, because you'll assume it'll be okay, only to trip over and hurt yourself maybe. Or even if you don't spring off the edge of a cliff, there's nothing magical about tripping over a rock and breaking a bone. Before modern medicine, things like that could cause infections and ultimately death, and that's what caused our ancestors to select only the fearful people to continue on into adulthood and pass on their fearful genes to their offspring. So yes, my unconscious mind is afraid, and that's good. But when I've worked out sensibly and logically that there is no risk, or that I'm willing to take that risk, I want to be able to communicate with myself, to my unconscious mind, not to self-sabotage. I want 100% of me on board with the new plan, and to 100% reject silly notions of monsters or worry that might be holding me back. You don't want to change or reprogram your personality, and if you remember the avocado, the stone or pip or seed is your personality, and it's much harder than the soft, fleshy fruit anyway. It's of course not impossible to change your personality, but it is much harder. But the point is that you can and you should change your unconscious mind from time to time, just so your whole team is pulling in the same direction. The best way to do this is with the conscious use of symbols. Of course, if you want to drink fruit teas, adopt 1 billion cats and call yourself some mystical, hysterical name that reflects your spirit animal, then who am I to judge? But to assume that you know what you're talking about when you don't understand about the levels of consciousness just bugs me. I don't mean to be negative, because spells do work, and if you want to get started casting your very own spells, then you should check out the video that I linked up here that talks about all of that sort of stuff and talks you through how to cast your very first spell. I hope that's cleared up a few misconceptions, and I hope I wasn't too negative about this new age sickness. I guess it's comforting to assume that the long shawls and sparkly pendants will lead to magical power, but the fact is that it's all up here inside your head, and it always will be. Thanks so much for watching. If you like this video, please do give it a big thumbs up, which tells YouTube's algorithm that it was a good video and more people should see it. If you want to see some more of this sort of stuff, click that subscribe button, ding that bell, and by dinging the bell it makes sure that you know when I upload other videos so that you won't miss on anything. So you won't miss out on anything. If you want to support this channel like these awesome people did, head on over to Patreon, where you can sign up to help me in my mission to make life more magical. Remember that I've got loads of things, magical things, available in my shop. All the links are down in the description, and I'll be back next time with some more magical awesomeness. So if you want to buy some stuff for Christmas, do it now. I can guarantee delivery, but only for so long. I will be back next time with some more magical awesomeness, but until next time, as always,
Play magical.
to tell my unconscious mind not to self-sabotage. Self-sabotage.
Please subscribe to Real World Magic. While you're there, click the bell button to be notified of future uploads, and have a look at all of my social stuff. Remember to donate on Patreon if you really liked it, and I'll see you again next week.